Well, first of all, it's that they were fortunate to get him. I mean, they got a player that most people thought would go number one for most of the year and for most of the last couple of years. So they got a really good player who I think can be a 10-time All-Star at the center position. I mean, he can score. He can make life easier for everybody else around him because of the attention, the doubles that he'll eventually command. But I just don't know how well he fits with Nerlens Noel, and obviously if Joel Embiid gets healthy. You got three bigs. Last I checked, you can only play two of them at once. They all want to play a lot of minutes. Now, again, right now Embiid's not healthy. So you got to look at the here and now and almost prepare for the worst-case scenario that Embiid is not going to be healthy. And does Okafor and Nerlens Noel, do those two really mesh well together? I'm not sold on it, even though on the surface, Okafor, great offensive player, Nerlens is a defensive-minded player. I just don't know if it works that well together because I think his best attribute is he can really block shots under the basket. That's what he's best at. You want him kind of under the basket, altering and blocking shots. And Okafor also has to play under the basket defensively. He's not a guy that you want to go out and guard guys on the perimeter.
Jeff Goodman, at Goodman ESPN on Twitter, ESPN Basketball Insider. You know, that's the big thing. Can they play all together, or does this signify that Embiid is hurt? Is this the Sixers? A lot of people keep talking, Jeff, about what's their plan? What are they doing? What does this, signify? Is this Hinkie saying, my plan is I'm taking the best player no matter what position he is and no matter what he does, I'm going to take the best player? 2 years ago, Nerlens was there at 6. He was injured, and they took him. Last year, Embiid was there at 3. He was injured, and they took him. This year, they already had 2 guys. They took Okafor at 3, and there he is. I take him. Is this him saying, I'm taking the most talented guy, and I don't care what position it is?
Well, especially right now because, okay, here are the scenarios. The scenarios, again, are, all right, if Embiid comes back, let's say he's not ready. Let's say he comes back, midway through the season. You can continue to boost up Nerlens' stock value and then potentially deal him. If Embiid's out for a while, you could see if this Okafor Nerlens front court works, give it a shot for a little while, and then make a move. My worry, my biggest concern, is Philly's going to have a lot of trouble signing guys in the free agent market, like good players right now, just because the feeling around the league is the culture is so bad in Philly right now. Agents don't want their guys going there. A lot of players don't want to be there unless they're going to make a whole lot more money there than they would anywhere else. So you got to overpay in Philly. But I think ultimately you had to draft Okafor. And now if you're Sam Hinkie, you got to figure out what's going on with Nerlens next. With Embiid next. And if Embiid's going to be healthy, I think you probably end up moving Nerlens. And you got to get a point guard. You got to get a point guard if you do trade Nerlens.
If Okafor and D'Angelo Russell were both there, do you think the Sixers still take Okafor?
Well, again, it depends on Embiid. I would say, that's a great question. Only one Sam Hinkie can answer. In that equation, it's funny because can Hinkie deal Okafor? I don't think he wants to. I hadn't heard from any teams that he was really trying to sell him and see what he could get for him last night. So I think he'll keep Okafor, and he'll build around him Jahlil Okafor, who, by the way, his IQ, his feel for the game is so advanced. He can help you now, even though he's a rookie. He's going to be terrific, but he needs a point guard to get him the basketball. He had that in college with Tyus Jones. They don't have that right now in Philly, so that's going to be the drawback for him right now is does he have a guy that's going to be able to really help him?
Yeah, I think that, as you said, we'll not know. If those two guys, because I think the Sixers looked at it as one of those guys wasn't going to be here. Does that automatically, in your mind, Jeff, say if Russell was there, he was the pick, and if Okafor was there, he was the pick? Basically, whatever the Lakers, whoever the Lakers didn't take, we'll take the other guy.
That's what I think it was going to come down to. Absolutely. I think it was whichever guy was left at 3, they were in a pretty good spot, and they win either way. But Russell just fits them better because you're hoping that Embiid gets healthy, and then you got Embiid at the 4, Nerlens at the 5. You got your point guard of the future in D'Angelo Russell. It's a whole lot easier to sign wings and overpay for a wing that, may not be as good, but you hope, could be a Harrison Barnes, even somebody like that a year from now. Golden State doesn't want to max him out. If you're Philly, you just max him out and pay him a lot more money and get a guy like that and hope that he can do more in their surrounding than he can in a place like Golden State. So it's a whole lot easier. So I just think point guard and bigs, if you can get those two positions situated, you get them. And I just think there's so much uncertainty right now with Joel Embiid that it's kind of whatever plan Hinkie had. And by the way, the Dario Saric part too, not having him hurt. So it's just throwing a loop into everything that Hinkie's looking at right now as far as the plan.
Jeff, that's another good point. Saric, let's say he comes over. How does he fit with those guys? I mean, that's another guy who's kind of a big, right?
He is a big. Yeah, I mean, listen, he's kind of a skilled 4. So, yeah, what do you do with him if he comes over? You're really locked him up front with no high-quality guards. So you got to start somewhere. And, I think if Embiid's healthy, you got to make a trade with one of those 3, and it's not going to be Okafor. Maybe it's Embiid, but his value is always going to be less than what you think it is if you're Sam Hinkie, because people are always going to be thinking about that injury.
Jeff Goodman, ESPN, NBA, looking at the college draft last night. I don't know what your thought was when they traded Michael Carter-Williams, but now what the Lakers have done and the Sixers situation, do you look back at that deal and say, man, if they had Michael Carter-Williams with this group, now they've got some pretty good talent on this team? Or I don't know what your feeling was when they made that Michael Carter-Williams trade, Jeff, but what do you think about that in hindsight?
Forgive me, I'm dealing with no sleep, so forgive me, but for the Michael Carter-Williams trade, they ended up getting... They got
the pick from Phoenix, which was the Laker pick, which was top 5 protected this year. Next year, it's now top 3 protected.
So it really depends on what the pick is next year, Lakers-wise.
That's right.
So realistically, they're hoping that the Lakers don't hit it in the free agent market, and if it could be somewhere in that 5 range. The draft next year is going to be good, but not great. So let's say it's in the... I think it's going to be more in the 10 range. If I had to guess, I bet you Philly's pick, the Lakers pick to Philly will be somewhere in that 10 range. I even think if the Lakers could sign like a LaMarcus Aldridge or somebody like that, you're talking about a team that could fight for a playoff spot. So I don't think it's going to be quite as good as people think. I would have hung on to Michael Carter-Williams. I'm a bigger fan of Michael Carter than most. I've seen him play forever. I love his length. I just think he needed to kind of be reined in a little bit in terms of he's a little wild. But I think Michael Carter-Williams is a tough kid, wants to win. But I think all the trade rumors and everything took its toll on him kind of before he eventually got traded.
Jeff Goodman here looking back at the draft, and obviously the Sixers, they get Okafor. I know the second round, a lot of times those guys are just kind of pulling names out of a hat and hoping. Yeah. But they got 4 more big guys. I mean, does he know something about the league that we don't know? I mean, is something changing about the way that we watch the NBA Finals? I mean, he drafts big guy, big guy, big guy. He got 1 guard last night.
It's awesome, man. Sam Hinkie, you just don't know what to expect, do you? You just get a bunch of dudes that we don't know who they are. Rashawn Holmes, he's actually a talented kid from Bowling Green. I was told he had already agreed to go overseas before he was picked. JP Tokoto is a really athletic wing. But there's a reason these guys want, I don't know. I mean, listen, Sam Hinkie values the second-round pick a whole lot more than I do.
Yeah.
There's usually one Draymond Green, one Chandler Parsons per year. There aren't many of those guys that make an impact in the second round. So I don't give a lot of credence to it. Maybe he'll hit it with one of these guys, but the numbers say they pan out that most of these guys aren't much more than just guys to sit in the end of the bench.
Jeff, last one, Embiid's so important. Brett Brown's been on with me, said he's the center of our universe. He's their guy. I mean, to them, he's the guy who's got to be everything. Is the feeling becoming more and more that he's not going to play?
I just don't think they know. I just don't think they know. I saw Joel a month or so ago, maybe a little more, in Chicago at the Combine, and he seemed pretty upbeat. I just don't think anybody has a good grasp. I know he's meeting with a few more doctors coming up here soon, and he just hasn't healed the way they wanted him. They thought it would go at this point. So obviously there's significant concern. And when you're talking about a kid that's now had a few injuries, and this one's been nagging, it hasn't healed the right way, you just worry about anybody. I hate when people say, well, it's a big. So people, I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's a big, a guard, whatever. Like, if this foot's not healing, this doesn't bode well for the future for Joel, and I feel so bad for him because, man, he's one of my favorite kids I've ever been around. Like, always upbeat, happy, just such a good kid to be around. So I hope it all works out for him. But I feel bad for him, and I feel bad for Brett Brown through all this because he's got a tough task ahead of him, a tough road. Stay positive. Try to change the culture when you're not necessarily given the chips to do so. But at least Jahlil Okafor is a winning ball player. He could try to build around him on the offensive end. He's got Nerlens on the defensive end. So at least it's starting to get better.
ESPN basketball insider Jeff Goodman. I'll leave you, Okafor was the pick. At that spot, Okafor probably the best player. Would you have rather have seen them take somebody else? At that point, when the Sixers are on the board, no. Jeff, were you saying, man, they should take Moutier or Porzingis, or was Okafor the right guy?
Absolutely the right guy. I just feel like, and I don't know this, but I feel like I would have worked the trade market as much as I could have at that point, seen what came my way. But they made the right move. They made the right move. You got to take Okafor in that situation because I think you can't take Porzingis. Okafor can at least help you win games now. Like, I like it. I do. I like it. I just want to see what he does next. Let's see what other moves he makes and can make, and maybe this organization can head in the right direction.
We sure hope. Jeff Goodman, ESPN basketball insider of the NBA draft. Very interesting last night. Jeff, thanks for all the coverage, and thanks for stopping on board.
You got it. Thanks for having me.